I hereby call this regular meeting of the King George County Service Authority Board of Directors in session. If you're able to, please stand while Mr. Parker leads us in an invocation, followed by Mr. Miller with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Lord, we ask for your guidance that we make decisions in the best interest of the Service Authority and the citizens of King George. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Miller, do we have any amendments to the agenda this evening?
Yes, sir. We need to have a closed session for a pending legal matter.
Okay.
I make a motion to amend the agenda to add the closed session.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Vice Chair votes aye. Motion passed. Okay, next is public comments. Do we have anybody in the audience that wish to speak? Mr. Dines, do we have anybody online? Okay. Board members, anybody have anything to add? Okay. Report of the board members, Mr. Parker.
No report, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Bender?
No report.
Ms. Cleveland?
No report.
And I have no report. Okay, on to the consent agenda.
Motion to accept the consent agenda as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Vice Chair votes aye. Motion passes. Report from the county attorney.
I have nothing to report.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, next, we're going to have a presentation, our annual audit by Mr. Grossnickel. Am I saying that correctly? Of Robinson, Farmer and Cox. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to pass on. I appreciate your time this evening. Just want to take a few minutes to go over the results of our audit for the year ended June 30th, 2021 for the Service Authority. Chris can get me straightened out here. So I'm Andrew Grossnickel. I'm the partner in charge for the audit for the Service Authority. You've engaged us to perform an audit for the year ended June 30th, 2021, a financial and compliance audit. The audit was subject to the auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America, specifications of audits of authorities, boards, and commissions that's set forth by the Auditor of Public Accounts for Virginia, and the standards for financial audits contained in the government auditing standards issued by the Comptroller General. Main byproduct of our audit process are our auditor reports. So contained in the financial statements, there are two auditor type reports. The first one is the independent auditor's report. That one is on the numbers of the financial statements. And for 2021, we expressed a unmodified or a clean opinion on the financial statements. So that's what you're looking for when it comes to the report on the numbers. The second report that's contained in the financial statements is a compliance related report. A lot of folks will refer to this report as either the Government Auditing Standards Report or the Yellow Book Report, and it's on internal controls and compliance-related matters for the authority. In this report, we would note any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in controls and certain compliance-related matters that we would be required to report. Pleased to report we did not have any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in internal controls for the Service Authority for June 30th, 2021. Just a few financial statement highlights that I do want to touch on for the year ended June 30th, 2021. Keep in mind for the service authority, it is what we refer to as a business type activity. So its financial statements are on the full accrual basis of accounting as if it was a regular business. It includes all the long-term liabilities, all the long-term assets are included in those financial statements. So your capital assets are included, your long-term debt, the authority's share of pension and OPEB liabilities and things of that nature. And so the residual of what you have on your balance sheet, so to speak, for the authority is a statement of net position, and it's the net position, similar to retained earnings in a private business. So for the year ended June 30, 2021, the net position of the authority was $20,661,322, and that was an increase of $771,601 from June 30th, 2020. The operating income for the year ended June 30th, 2021 was $1.4 million. And then you can see here the trend analysis of the change in net position for the last 5 years for the service authority, where it has had a positive trend upward there. When you consider back in 2017, there was actually a reduction in net position of $694,000, and then gradually decreasing, and then flipping to 2020, an increase in net position of $365,330, and then 2021, $771,601. So that's a positive trend there of the change in the net position. And then finally, I just have a little chart here that I've included that shows the operating revenues and expenses of the authority for the last 5 years as well. And so again, you can see that from an operating revenue standpoint, the operating revenues are exceeding the operating expenses, and the delta there the last 2 years has grown, significantly, which has been what's driving the positive results from the net position standpoint in the last couple of years. So with that, I'd be glad to open it up to any questions related to the authority financial statements and the audit for the year ended June 30th, 2021.
Thank you. Mr. Parker, any questions?
No questions.
Ms. Bender?
Just a quick one, non-operating items, what would they be?
So for 2021, the non-operating items would be bond issuance costs. So interest expense, that's considered non-operating. That's the biggest one. And then the other two kind of offset this year. The coronavirus relief fund had a portion of money for utility relief, and the amount that was applied to customers' bills was $164,322. And so that's shown as a recognition of revenue as a non-operating federal grant revenue, and then as an expense for that program as if it was kind of run independently. They offset. So really, this year the non-operating revenues and expenses had a net of $757 reduction, and that was primarily driven by $691,000 of interest expense.
Thank you.
Ms. Cleveland?
No questions, thanks.
Okay, and I have no questions. Thank you for the report, sir. And we'll see you next year, I guess.
Yep. Thank you.
Mr. Miller, I believe it's time for your general manager's report.
Okay. I guess the first of all, I would like to thank Andrew for his work on behalf of the Service Authority, and very happy with the report. And I think that the report shows, kind of the hard work that Mr. Weekly and you all as board members have done over the past couple of years to try to bring things to a positive place where they are right now. So I really think that's something that you should be very proud of, and previous board members as well. I will tell you about a couple things. We did get correspondence on the proposed consent order for Dahlgren and Perkins Corner, and we'll be providing you further updates on that. We have responded to their questions or their inquiries, and we got that back to them on December 10th. And we'll be discussing that in the future. Perkins Corner decommissioning, I'm proud to say that we have an evaluation team of our employees that are looking at the engineering proposals for the decommissioning, and we received 3 proposals. They interviewed them yesterday, and so we'll continue to do their due diligence, and we will be bringing this back to you in sometime in January, hopefully. If not, it'll be in February on the procurement for one of those firms. So very excited about that. I think it is something that is another one of those achievements, I think, that the Service Authority has in terms of finally being able to make the commitment to actually take the Perkins Corner wastewater treatment plant offline and to begin the process of sending the waste in towards Hop Yard. And, it has been obviously a kind of a thorn in the side of the Service Authority for quite some time. And so I think it's kind of a milestone that people ought to be proud of. Potomac Landing, we have had correspondence with the developer, representatives for the developer. So the original proposal for Potomac Landing was to connect, to build a well and have water service to 83 lots. They have decided to go in a different direction. They do not think that the well proposal that they had would work for them financially. And so they have taken that off the table. We have already conveyed that to the Community Development Department. And what is not on the table, they have indicated that they will be providing the connections. They'll be connecting to the Fairview Beach wastewater treatment plant for the sewer connections. And so that's basically, there won't be anything that the board has to do. It will be something that we'll deal with from the community development side. Water compliance. So as you know, we are working with VDH, Virginia Department of Health, and the DEQ, the Department of Environmental Quality, in terms of addressing some of their concerns about water. We obviously have been fortunate to receive the $5 million grant from the Virginia Department of Health for water improvements to help address some of our groundwater issues and the well usage. So the next step is we have met as a team, Jerry Goldman, myself, Travis Cusenberry, Mike Haggerty with Draper Aiden, and we are now developing a list of priorities to undertake that meet the needs that they have conveyed to us at the state level to begin addressing some of these water issues that exist and that have been identified as critical for VDH standpoint as well as DEQ. So there will be some projects. We had some money budgeted in the operating budget to take care of some of these needs. But at the same time, some of these will now kind of kick into that money that would be available from the state. We're hoping at the next meeting, probably the second meeting in January, we're hoping to have you a draft report from RK&K for the raw water acquisition that we tasked them with. I would think that once you get your report and you have an opportunity to review it, we then would probably want to have a joint meeting with the Board of Supervisors to talk about future raw water acquisition opportunities and needs for the county. Clearly, we know VDH and we know DEQ would like us to have surface water as a future resource, and so we are obviously working in that direction. A couple other things that I would point out, and I did share obviously with you the good news via an email that I sent yesterday. The governor's budget that outgoing Governor Northam submitted did include $16 million for the King George County Service Authority's wastewater projects. We identified several of those. Two of those you know for sure, and those are the decommissioning of Perkins Corner and the decommissioning of Oakland Park. Now, the decommissioning of Oakland Park was scheduled to be a couple years in the future. If the $16 million stays alive and gets approved in the budget, the state budget, and we get those funds, then when we get those funds, we would probably accelerate the Oakland Park project so that we could get that done and all the various connections that would send it to Hop Yard, so we could begin the process of really taking care of some of our problematic wastewater needs. But there were other things that were also listed in that included I&I, some funds for infiltration and inflow issues that happen primarily in Dahlgren, some Dahlgren upgrades, as well as Hop Yard upgrades. And so great news. And I would like to say thank you to Senator Richard Stewart for helping kind of get this a little placeholder in the budget for the governor or for the state. And I think Ms. Kupka is the chair of this service authority and also as the chair of the Board of Supervisors is to be thanked as well for her involvement in coordinating things with Mr. Stewart. So, or with Senator Stewart, excuse me. Probably going to look at discussing the idea of a joint meeting. I did talk about that regarding the RK&K, but I also think a nice meeting with the Board of Supervisors, a joint meeting with the supervisors in January or February would be good as well to update them, keep them apprised of what's going on the service authority side. So we can be thinking about that after the first of the year. The agenda for the board meeting, the first board meeting in January, the Board of Supervisors, obviously, they have some procedural and some organizational requirements that they go through, as and this board does as well. So unless you have any burning issues you want to have on that meeting in January 4th, it would be my recommendation that it be a very focused meeting on the procedural and the organizational aspects of things so that we don't delay any of that. And so, but if we have something that has to be on there, then obviously we will bring that to you. But we kind of explained that to the Board of Supervisors too, and I think they understand that. So and that is it. I don't know if there's anything else you had any questions on.
Mr. Miller, this is sort of a question and sort of just a observation on the water compliance at the state level. 1 minute, the governor's budget is eliminating 12 or 14 positions in water compliance. The next day they're back in, then they're out, then they're back in. Obviously, you can't answer to that, but I guess my concern is what would or how would that impact us if they lost these compliance officers, and would it delay projects of ours because they have less staff, or is this something that we should kind of keep an eye on?
I think that's a good point. Obviously, regulatory wise, we are always, very concerned about timely response and, making sure that you have a clear sense of what you need to do. And so I would think that if there was some kind of impact to their regulatory, enforcement divisions, then that could impact us that way. We obviously have a daily and sometimes, obviously a monthly requirement, that we have to go through in terms of water and wastewater. And so we're going to continue to do that, obviously, because we don't want the alternative. But I know that the money, the resources that we have been awarded for the water compliance through the CARES funds that will become available July 1. And I shouldn't say CARES funds, but the ARP funds. I don't think there's going to be an impact to that. We haven't had anybody indicate to us that there's any concern about any delays. I would imagine that they would probably consolidate a lot of divisions, or they would, regional field offices might be collapsed into one. And so it might delay their enforcement, but I don't, what we're going to do is continue to do our job. So I don't know if I have an answer for that.
Right. I didn't
Satisfy
really
you
think there
there,
was an
but I-
answer, but I was just thinking, with as much stuff as we have to report with the state and work with the state, that if you had heard maybe something of what could happen down the road if they lost these, whatever, 12 or 14 positions. But following the news, it seems like they're bouncing them in and out of the budget every day. And if they lose them, then we have to kind of consider that in delays of any projects or stuff we need from them.
Yes, sir. Do you have any answer?
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Ms. Bennett.
I move that King George County Public Service Authority convene in closed meeting to discuss DEQ enforcement action pursuant to VA Code Section 2.2-3711A7 and 8 for consultation with staff and legal counsel regarding actual or probable litigation where such consultation or briefing in open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the public body and specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice of counsel. I invite the county administrator and county attorney because they are deemed necessary and/or their presence will reasonably aid the board in its consideration of the topics to be discussed pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3712F.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Vice Chair votes aye. We're in closed session.
I move that the King George County Public Service Authority return to public meeting and certify by vote that only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered during the closed meeting.
Alan Parker, so certify.
James Morris, so certify.
Kathy Bender, so certify.
Mary Cleveland, so certify.
Okay. We're back in open session.
Motion to adjourn to September 7th, 2021 at 6:30 PM.
January.
Oh, sorry. January.
January 4th.
January
whole year.
4th. I've got too many of these things up. January 4th at 6:30 PM here in the boardroom.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Wait, hold on a second. 5:30. Are we doing which time?
Isn't it a joint one?
So it's because of the organizational meeting, I think that Mr. Parker is correct, that the first meeting is the Board of Supervisors.
Yes.
And then this board convenes and then they do their business and then the Board of Supervisors comes back.
5:30, it'd be 6:30 because Board of Supervisors.
Yep, you're right.
Right.
With us.
We'll do it again. Want to go again and then I'll second it again.
Okay. Motion to adjourn to January 4th at 6:30 PM here in the boardroom.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Vice Chair votes aye. Any nays? Motion carries. We are adjourned until January 4th.